Welcome back to the PC Engine Files. I'm your host, Mr. MegaManFan, and today we're looking at Atomic Robo-Kid Special. It's not very often that right at the beginning of an episode I tell you that I had to set the record straight on something, but when I went to the Wikipedia entry for this game, it erroneously stated that this game was released in North America in 1989. Wrong! That did not happen. This is a Japanese exclusive PC Engine game. I wish it had been released in North America on the TurboGrafx 16, but that is not the case. If you want this game, you either need to emulate it or import it because you cannot buy a domestic North American copy of Atomic Robo-Kid Special. And you might just want to get a copy of this game because it is quite a unique game among the library of PC Engine TurboGrafx 16 releases. It stands out by being a crossbreed between a platformer, a side-scrolling shooter, a vertical exploration game. It's got a lot of different things going on within the confines of its programming. Unfortunately, it is not the cheapest game on the PC Engine library. You can get a copy for $37.19, but you'll spend about $20 shipping, so it's going to cost you at least $60. Some sellers have it $60 with free shipping, so that amounts to basically the same thing before you figure in the sales tax. Now, if you haven't already figured it out from watching the gameplay footage, there are two different modes of attack for the titular Atomic Robo-Kid. He can hover in the air, which turns it into something of a shoot-'em-up, or he can walk along the ground, and when he does, the other button uses a jump function to leap over walls and obstacles and enemies if you like. But either way that you do it, you are limited to that set of controls when you're doing it. That's a convoluted explanation, but what I'm trying to say is you obviously don't have the jump button when you're hovering in the air, but when you are hovering in the air, that jump button instead becomes your option select button for the different weapons in your loadout. And of course, when you're running on the ground, you don't have access to that loadout because your button is the jump button, so you can't switch weapons while you're running along the ground. Does that make sense? I hope so. Because like I said, this game is a very weird crossbreed between two different types of games, and at first I wasn't sure that I was going to be into it because it takes a while to get used to switching back and forth between your weapon loadout and traversing the ground when you're in stages that require you to do so. And the boss fights are a little, well, at first they're obtuse. You can't really figure out what to do because you have a fan that just grinds its way towards you and you're like, do I just shoot it in the middle? Do I try to get past it and shoot it on the other side? Do I switch weapons and target it only in the center as fast as I can? And that turned out to be the correct attack. If you use the bomb weapon in your loadout or missile, it's a short-range explosive, whatever you want to consider that to be. It is the most effective weapon against the boss. You just plug away at it right in the middle, boom, it's dead. Then you collect this little symbol, and you move on to the next act, or stage, or whatever. So, Atomic Robo-Kid Special started out as an arcade game released by UPL in 1988. It claims in this Wikipedia entry it was published in America by Nicom Incorporated. Again, that's not true. I don't know who came up with that idea, but Atomic Robo-Kid is not part of the US North American library of TurboGrafx 16 games. Unless you have a HuCard converter for PC Engine games, or you're playing this through something like the Super SD System 3, you are not playing this game on a TurboGrafx 16. If you even go to the list of games released for the PC Engine worldwide and scroll down in the wiki entry to to Atomic Robo-Kid Special, it says North America unreleased. That says it all. That's definitive. These two pages are just completely at odds with each other in terms of what they're saying. One claims it is, one claims it isn't, but the one that claims it isn't is correct, because there is no physical North American edition of this game. I don't even know why I have to go on this rant and say that Wikipedia is prone to errors. If you're watching this video and listening to the sound of my voice, you probably know that all too well. So we have this interesting in-between stages act where it's like you versus another Atomic Robo-Kid. It kind of looks like you, but it's not you. But it can hover and shoot like you. And you have this wall of enemies that are acting like obstacles blocking your fire. But eventually, you can pick up a power-up and use it to attack your other enemy by destroying the ones that are blocking it faster, and then landing enough shots to finally knock it out and collect all the power-ups and move on to the next act. So what we have here is a game that has mini stages as well as regular stages. And in some of these stages, like Act 4, you're even going to get deja vu to stages like Metal Man in the Mega Man franchise, where things are above you and below you, and you have a small window of area in the middle that you try to traverse, knocking out the enemies as you go. You can even jump and shoot just like you would in those games. You can also, if you want, just go straight into hovering mode and try to zip by all of them. But you'll still have an end boss that you have to clear before you can progress to the next act. I really got into the diversity of playstyles in Atomic Robo-Kid. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, especially with the high difficulty at the beginning, learning how to switch back and forth between the modes. But it's, once you get it, you've got it. It immerses you. You get sucked into Atomic Robo-Kid and really start to enjoy yourself. So this one apparently also got ports to Sega Genesis, Commodore 64, Sharp X68000, Atari ST, Commodore Amiga, and even a attempted port to the ZX Spectrum that ultimately got canceled. And if you don't want to play it on a TurboGrafx with an SD System 3 or an emulation, it was released in the Nintendo eShop on November 15th of 2018 as part of the Arcade Archive series. So you can play the original arcade game that was intended to be ported to PC Engine and TurboGrafx, but was called Atomic Robo-Kid Special, since it was not a straight port, but rather a conversion of the game to home consoles. Figuring out this boss was the most difficult part of my gameplay for this video. I thought maybe I could run by it, but I was always getting wailed on when I tried to do that. I thought maybe I could take out one of the arms before it trapped me in the corner. That doesn't work either. Ultimately, I realized I had to play a game of tag with this thing and get it to follow me all the way to one side of the screen. That way I could turn around and wail on the different arms as it approached. Then I could zip around it and get to the other side. But if I tried to just wail on it and stay in the corner, that was not going to work. Incidentally, this actually reminds me of a game I played from Mega Cat Studios that boasted Mode 7 graphics on Sega Genesis, which it really isn't. It's just emulating the style of Mode 7 and making a version of it for Genesis. But if you saw my Arcageous Revolution video, there was a boss very similar to this, except you had to rotate your ship around it to continually draw it towards you and then deck it once it got close enough, and then rotate around and do it again. In this one, you're not rotating, but you are playing the same game of tag or chase, where you're getting it to follow you and then you're doing damage to it. And once it's trapped in a certain area, you fire on it repeatedly until you destroy one of the arms, and then you get it to follow you to the other side so you can take out the next arm. So it's nice to see that a PC Engine game or a home console game in general requires you to adapt to each boss instead of using one strategy repeatedly, because that's how else do I say it? It just makes games boring when you defeat every enemy the same way. You want variety, you want challenge, you want to have to figure things out as you go, taking each challenge and learning the way to overcome that challenge. Just like in the Mega Man games, when you figure out which weapon you use against a robot master that takes out that particular robot because it has a weakness to it, there's a satisfaction you derive from learning the play style for each one. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.